Hello and welcome to Series 2 of the Pocket Dojō podcast, the show where we talk about making the world a better place by making better things. I'm Paul Crick.
And I'm Asha Singh. Today we're setting the scene for our second series of the podcast. Thank you for joining us.
Yes, in Series 1, we introduced some key concepts and practices for becoming more regenerative ourselves and in our organizations. We also found our feet as relative newbie video podcasters with a huge learning curve and a tight schedule to make interesting podcast episodes every 2 weeks.
So Series 2 is going to be a little bit different. We want to explore the spaces between us, the relationships that we establish in them, also with the places that we move through, how we shape them and they shape us.
Which begins with who we bring of ourselves to any situation and what emerges in those spaces between us as a result. What helps us to deal with whatever arises, particularly when we don't agree with or like it, so we can establish the conditions for all life to flourish.
Which is what regeneration is all about, wherever we find ourselves, whatever our context or situation. So we've got a great lineup of guests who will be joining us to talk about these crucial topics, which feel really important, especially as life gets more challenging for many of us.
Yes, we're talking to other practitioners in the field of leadership and organizational development, as well as leaders in other fields, creatives and people whose practice is more spiritually focused. Asha, what prompted you to want to talk to others about these topics?
Well, as I just said, the things we're talking about feel really important now. I guess, they always have been, to be honest, but, as in economic and environmental conditions, let's say, get, more difficult for many of us around the world, I think it's really crucial that we learn to weather the storms that are likely just to become more frequent, as I think many of us are realizing, whether those are literal or kind of economic storms, or whatever they might be. So, as we talked about in the first series, Paul, regeneration for us, I guess, is, all about reconnecting different parts of ourselves, and healing them as we get to know them better. It's also about honing our intuition, interacting in healthy, more empowering ways with each other, and rediscovering, that we are part of nature. We're not something that's separate from it. So we can't possibly steward, our environment effectively if we don't do those things, whatever we believe our tech can help us to do. So I think we can learn so much from nature, how animals and plants develop resilience and also collective intelligence. Whether that's about adapting to changing weather patterns or the places, which they grow or they feed or whatever. And they don't have any tech except for, whatever we might call your inner tech. But what about you, Paul? What are you learning, or what's really exciting you about talking with other people?
I think what's interesting is I'm reading lots as well as talking to people, and you're starting to hear a bit of tiredness setting in with the constant pace of life, the emphasis on STEM and technology and AI. There seems to be a beginning element of tiredness for that, which I think is quite exciting in a way, because what that tends to do is it reminds me of the conditions when the original Renaissance happened several centuries ago, in that I sense that there is a potential for a new Renaissance that finds a balance point between the things that do make life better. At the end of the day, you can't argue that against technology making a lot of things better for us. But I think it's this hype cycle it's a bit like the internet bubble back in the 20th century, when it all got hyped to death and everybody got sick of it, and then the bubble burst, and then there was a recovery. So I think what I'm hearing is a certain weariness on the one hand, and then when you talk to people about regenerative ideas, they don't really know what it is, and then you say, well, it's this and it's this, and it's how we meet ourselves, and it's our reconnection to nature, and it's connecting emotion to logic. And they go, oh yeah, I get that, and here's what I'm doing differently, or oh, what's the sorts of things I can do, and pointing people to places to go and look at very simple things and very simple changes that they can make in their own environment, both in terms of how they show up, but also in terms of the things that they do. And for me, I think that's really exciting because what we forget is there's lots of us, and it only takes all of us to do one thing to have a massive impact and to change what's happening on our world. So I was in a grocer's yesterday in our local market town, and it was just lovely to walk in, and there was this display of vegetables and fruits that beautifully presented, no single-use plastic anywhere, paper bags to do that, refueling stations for seeds, vegetables, personal healthcare products. You just go, yeah, this guy's really good. We were talking to him about how he did it and how he's sort of by example trying to set an example to other people and encourage them to do things. So that's what's exciting me.
That sounds fantastic. I wonder whether we could get him on the show, actually. Yeah, I'd love to
did
have a
cross-
conversation
It
with
did
him.
cross my
Yeah,
mind.
yeah,
Yes,
so
I'll ask him.
would be great. Would be great. So yeah, I think it's also really valuable to well, like you say, actually, to say there are really simple things that we can do. So that's another aspect that I'm also enjoying about talking with the guests that I've recorded sessions so far. About how really simple things can sit alongside, what you might consider to be traditional business practice, or where possible, actually replace them. And they're not difficult to do. You don't have to change the world or invest in really, sophisticated tech or whatever it might be to do that. And another aspect that actually came in very clearly in the conversations that I had yesterday with guests we were recording. And first of all, that there are great things from nature that we can just observe and relate to, and that's becoming more acceptable, perhaps, let's say. And also that I'm not a parent, so I can't speak to this directly. This is stuff sort of reported stories, but a number of people, as you're saying, you're talking about the tiredness, the weariness, definitely emerging in conversations. Also, this emerging observation or experience, whatever you want to call it, that younger generations are actually not that into the tech. They don't really want that kind of world either, as useful as it can be, without any doubt. So I think that's really true what you said about there's so many of us, and we can do just simple things that can have really powerful results, particularly if we do them intentionally and we do them at scale, like you say, many of us do them.
Yes, and I think as we go through the guest conversations that we've recorded, you'll see that the ideas that our guests bring, it's all about lifting everybody up so we can all flourish, not just helping some to sort of elevate to a certain position of wealth and status at the expense of some others, which is really what regeneration is all around. Because the truth is there's enough resources in the world right now and enough money for no one to be hungry, nobody to be homeless, and for people to have a life a quality of life that we all deserve, without trading that for degradation of the planet and our biodiversity and the five spheres that support life. So I think it's really exciting. I can't wait for people to hear it.
Yeah, fantastic. I think, I get really the sense also as well, if you're getting this from your conversations with guests, but we're going to have more than one series of things that come out. They're sparking the conversations are sparking so many other ones that we could, pick up and explore in lots of ways. So yeah, absolutely. It's really exciting.
Brilliant. I can't wait to dive in. What's coming up then, Asha, in the next few weeks?
So Paul and I will be taking it in turns to talk, even with an individual guest on each episode each week. So a little bit different from the first series. We'll be talking for about 30 to 40 minutes each time, and then as I said, that these conversations are sparking so many other ones that we will explore in future episodes.
And we'll also be sharing an occasional shorter episode, a Pocket Dojō podcast extra, if you like, where Asha and I will be drawing out the themes that are emerging in different conversations and bringing them together and also building upon them.
As always, you'll be able to watch the Pocket Dojo podcast on all your favorite channels, and then follow us our writing, where we're talking, writing and speaking to these topics in more depth on Substack, LinkedIn, Instagram, and Facebook.
Yeah. So please do join us for the first guest episode on Monday, the 10th of June. So bye for now.
See you soon.